Alright guys, we're back on the flight deck for a few minutes here. We do have Oceanic Control online, so we are going to quickly call them up and get an Oceanic clearance. Hold on one moment. Okay, back in the flight deck, and time for an Oceanic clearance here. Alright, so what we can do is we can pull out our flight plan. SimBrief's flight plans have a convenient spot for Oceanic clearances. If I can just find it here. I know they do. Somewhere here, there's the ICAO flight plan. That tracks. Somewhere here, I swear there was a Oceanic clearance. There it is. And then you can pretty much just read off of that. Shanwick Oceanic, good morning. It's Transat 360 requesting Oceanic clearance.
Transat 360, Shanwick, good evening, stand by.
I guess it is evening for Shanwick. Still morning here in Gander. So this right here is the route, flight level, and the Mach number. The other thing you'll need to know, of course, is your entry point crossing time. There it is. Cross Chupi at 14:51. I think I never did check, but I did check to make sure my flight started going here, but it did. It did start flying. There's our flight, and it does recognize that we're in progress. Thank goodness for that. I realized that I had never looked at before we took off. Alright, waiting for our Oceanic clearance. It's gonna be a long process. I called him. What's going on? I feel like I'm getting the shaft here. Well, let's just check and see how things are going. We got 33 tons of fuel on board. Engines all looking in the green. Lead systems are all operating perfectly normal. Pressurization today worked perfectly normal. Cabin's at 6,200 feet. 8.5. AC generators are just putting out a small amount of load. DC. Looks normal. conditioning, all the zones look pretty nice and normal. No doors are open yet. Flight controls and a little more complicated systems on this aircraft, the fuel system. We've got fuel in the main tanks, we've got fuel in the outer tanks, and we've got fuel in the trim tank. And it's a complicated system, but the great thing is the airplane does take care of it pretty much all on its own. You don't have to do anything for that system. Wanted to get the Oceanic clearance, but apparently it's not working here. I don't hear anybody transmitting at all.
Transect 360, John Wick, FMS. I'm sorry for the delay for about UK. Can you please pass the message?
Transat 360, no problem. We didn't want to seem impatient. Just requesting Oceanic clearance, please. We are looking for fixes JUPI 49 north 50 west, 51 north 40 west, 53 north 30 west, 54 north 20 west, Dogal, Bexit, requesting flight level 370, Mach decimal 83, estimating JUPI at 1450 Zulu.
Roger, Transat 360, repeat to Amsterdam, maintain flight level 370. As requested, I will report over 49 and 104 west, maintain 370.
Okay, we'll maintain flight level 370. We'll report to you over 49 north 50 west at Transat 360. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry for the delay.
Not a problem. Alright, so there's 49 north 50 west. It's going to be at 1 minute after the next hour. So we're going to step away for a few minutes now again. The nice thing about Oceanic is that you do get to step away in between the position reports. The position reports are generally 30 to 45 minutes apart, and you can easily step away. No one expects any real response in the interim. Looks like a beautiful day out here over the Atlantic. The airplane looks like it's working well, still showing arrival. Now it's about quarter after 19 Zulu now in Amsterdam, still showing 9.5 now, 9.6. We're doing quite well on the fuel load there, which is great. We're going to have lots of extra fuel when we get to Amsterdam. So yeah, after that quick review, we're going to step away from the flight deck again for a little bit here, and we will be back here within, we'll be back here for our first position report in about 20 minutes. Stay tuned, guys.
feathers are all I need to let go.
Alright guys, welcome back to the flight deck here. We are still making our slow but steady progress on our way to Amsterdam. So far so good. The airplane has continued flying successfully. We're almost halfway across the Atlantic, and if you can see on the MFD there, we're coming up to our next fix very soon here. The next fix appears to be 53 north and 30 west. The great thing is, of course, the abbreviations, first of all, you can use in the North Atlantic system. You can just type in just the latitude and longitude up to 90 degrees west and up to 99 degrees west, I guess. And the waypoints are all already automatically programmed into your sim, which is really kind of nice. It makes it a lot easier, not into your sim, into the FMSs, and this is true in the real world. They're programmed in there to make it a little shorthand, so that you don't have to enter 53 north, 030 west. And most of these FMSs, when you're trying to enter lat longs by a character, are in fact even longer than that. I know I think it's the 747 and the 777, the Boeing FMSs, they need you to enter, I believe, it would be like 53000 north, 03000 west, like 12 characters long to get the waypoint correct. So these shorthand waypoints are fantastic when you're trying to program an FMS, and when you've got multiple lat long waypoints, you don't want it to take 20-something years for you to program these in. So fortunately there are these shortcuts. There are a bunch of them throughout the different oceanic systems, especially where you're mostly relying on lat longs. So we're coming up on our first waypoint here, and we're going to be doing our position report as we pass 53 north, 30 west. It's going to be let's see here. It's going to be Shanwick. Are they still online? I actually have not looked. No, actually, we won't be doing a position report because they logged off. They were online earlier, however, I was not able to be in the flight deck very regular to describe it, but it looks like they did log off while we were out of the flight deck. So now we're here, and we're unfortunately on our own for some of this, at least some of this oceanic crossing. But once we get into European domestic airspace, I expect we're going to have some pretty consistent ATC across the board anyways, certainly hopefully for our Amsterdam arrival. So when you're doing oceanic flying, one of the most important things to always realize and be aware of, and this is something that probably, especially for new people, they have a little bit of a hard time wrapping their heads around. And the most important thing to realize about oceanic operations is that this is a non-radar environment. That means there's no radar coverage out here over the Atlantic. Where would you put a radar station to begin with, right? There's no land to put a radar station on. Radar stations have limited coverage. Generally, you're talking like 100, 150 miles for primary for surveillance radar. Secondary surveillance radar, you might get double that. You might get 300 miles. We are out here in the middle of the Atlantic. We are probably at least 500 to 700 miles from the closest point of land. Still 1,200, 1,300 miles to our destination in Europe, but even Iceland, which is off to our left somewhere, and we're probably getting pretty close to it being off the left side there somewhere, but even that is still probably a good 300, 400 miles away, so if not 600 or 700 miles, definitely, if not on radar coverage there. So the North Atlantic track system and the oceanic airspace system is based on the idea of non-radar coverage, so controllers are not able to pinpoint where an airplane is, except when an airplane tells them precisely where they are. This used to be the way all aviation was conducted. 70-something years ago, this was the way aviation was conducted everywhere. Radar was an invention of, I believe, the Second World War. But before that, there was no way to know where airplanes were unless they told you. So they would call in regularly and say, yep, we are here, we're going to be at our destination at this time, and that's how airlines would keep track of their airplanes. They'd know where they are. If an airplane failed to make it to its destination, they would use that time, the reported times, to say, okay, well, they made it at least this far, so we only have to look for the airplane past this point, and they've got to be somewhere past this point along their planned route of flight. The other thing, of course, was as the air traffic grew, it also became necessary to organize traffic. You'd have multiple airplanes possibly flying the same route. We can't just have them all randomly flying together, especially once you start to get a little bit busy, you start to put dozens and dozens of people into an airplane. We needed to have an organized way of keeping track of these, so they came up with the airways and the position reporting system, the airway system still exists in most domestic airspace. The position reporting system it fell out of favor once radar came into play. But airplanes would fly down certain airways. They depart at a certain time at a certain speed, and therefore anybody could estimate at what point they're going to get to their next destination, or the next waypoint. And as long as you didn't have an airplane on the same airway at the same altitude within the same time frame, then you had separation. So you could either have the origins of the air traffic control system, especially in the United States of America, was not federal. It was originally the original air traffic, the ARTCCs, Air Route Traffic Control Centers, were originally branches of the airlines. The various airlines would set up their own flight following system where they would make sure that their own airplanes became separated. Over time, the airlines got together, cooperated, and organized joint systems for tracking airplanes down airways, tracking their various airplanes down airways to make sure that they would not hit any airplanes from their own airline or from any of the other airlines, because nobody wants to hit another airplane regardless of whether it's your competitor or not. So that was the origins of the en route control system in the United States of America. Of course, eventually it was taken over by the federal government and evolved into the system we know today. But that was the beginning of it. It was originally airlines who were keeping track of when their airplanes were flying down the designated airways. They would use that to control the traffic flow. They would measure the time and the distance and the speed and altitude, and they'd say, okay, there's another airplane on this airway at this altitude. You can either have a different altitude or you have to wait till this point to start down the airway. And that was the dawn of the air traffic control system. Of course, after World War II, radar was invented. It was much easier, much more reliable. First of all, you don't have to rely on everybody having a perfect watch, because one of the problems is that every airplane, every aviator had their own clock, their own watch. you had to synchronize it when you started the flight, and every watch, every clock drifts a little bit. There was no GPS, there was no central tracking system at that time, so every airplane's clock might drift a little bit. You were relying on human calculations a lot too. Humans make mistakes, navigators make mistakes, whether it be forgetting to carry the one or something grosser than that. It was human that people could make mistakes, and ETAs were wrong periodically. So the radar was a huge progress in terms of being able to track aircraft much more reliably, much more accurately, precisely, and in a much more timely fashion, instead of having to wait, a couple minutes after an airplane passed a waypoint for them to do all their calculations and then phone in their position report. They would instantaneously, 6 seconds after the beam goes out, well, pretty much instantaneously, within a second, the beam goes out and comes back, and you know right where that airplane is, to within a very reasonable level of accuracy, within a fraction of a mile. Very reasonable level of accuracy for aviation anyways. So that quickly spread to most developed areas. But unfortunately, the trouble with radar is you need ground stations to detect airplanes, and the middle of the ocean does not have any ground for you to mount a radar station onto. So this was the big problem. There we go, we just passed a waypoint. Did a slight turn there, more than a slight turn, it was a really kind of aggressive little turn there for a second. Alright, where was I before I got interrupted there? We were discussing and talking about the fact that there's nowhere to put a radar station out here in the middle of the Atlantic, so the procedures that were established a long time ago for handling traffic on airways have persisted in the Atlantic and on all the oceans really for half a century, because nobody's come up with anything better. And it wasn't until the Malaysian Airlines air flight just disappeared from radar and disappeared from the world that people even understood that this was still a thing. Everyone assumed that, oh yeah, everyone knows where airplanes are all the time, they're all on radar. And that was true to an extent. Over land, absolutely 100% true, but then over the ocean there is no radar coverage. There's nowhere to put radar stations, and thus there's no way to track these airplanes on radar. And people had a very hard time dealing with that idea that these airplanes, technically, they flew out of radar coverage and disappeared, and then they reappeared on the other end. And because it happened so reliably, nobody ever really thought anything about it. And especially in this modern age, in the 21st century, where everybody is tracked 24/7 by their cell phone that they carry in their pocket. Everyone assumes that everything is tracked all the time, but that cell phone in your pocket that does that tracking, it uses the GPS, but it also uses the cellular network, which is very land-based. Out over the ocean, your cell phone is going to be useless. It's not going to be useless. You can still use it to do things as a computer, but in terms of communication and tracking, it's a useless device at that point. Nowadays, there is starting to be more and more time, energy, money invested in alternative means of tracking. We now have the GPS constellation, which can give precise locations worldwide. We're also looking at satellite tracking, where we can transmit a position almost continuously. There's enough satellites out there circling this globe that you can transmit a position continuously from an airplane to the satellite, keep track of where all your airplanes are very reliably, very quickly, and if an airplane ever stops sending the signals, you immediately begin to say, hey, wait a second, something's wrong, maybe the airplane has disappeared off radar or something's going on. So it's, there are technologies on the horizon, but it was a huge eye-opener when that Malaysian flight disappeared, and everyone shrugged their shoulders and said, well, it disappeared off radar. Well, what do you mean disappeared off radar? You know where the airplanes are. It's like, no, we actually don't know where the airplanes are between the time they fly away from one coast and the time they fly on to the next one, because there is no radar coverage out there. We use position reports, we stay in contact with them, but we have no physical way of tracking it other than merely what they report. If they cease to report, we don't know where they are. So that's the basics. That's the basis of the procedures in the North Atlantic. Is that every first of all, you need to have an organized flight plan. You're not going to usually get direct here, direct there, direct anywhere. You need to have a very specific flight plan because there's no way for anybody to see precisely where you are. So we keep things separated generally by having people fly at different levels, having people fly on tracks that are a given number of miles apart, which normally it's 1 degree of latitude, which is 60 miles, or having time separation if they're along the same route. If their routes cross, we either use different altitudes or we use time separation to make sure that their routes that they are safely separated. In order for the system to function, however, we do need to have a reasonably accurate idea of where each airplane is, which is why every time you pass over a position in the North Atlantic or in the Oceanic, any of the positions on your flight plan, you are supposed to make that report to the controller, and they will then put it in the computer. The computer nowadays they do have computer tracking. It used to be like literally just a sheet of paper, and then they would jot in people's positions and continually calculate when they were going to get to the next point and keep track of them that way. Nowadays it's the computer tracking it, so they put in the information, but it's still, at the end of the day, it relies on the accuracy of the position report. The pilot has to phone it in. The radio operator inputs the information into the computer and then makes sure that everybody is still remaining safely separated. So the position reports are simulated on the VATSIM network. There is oceanic positions simulated on the VATSIM network. For anyone who's not flown it before, it's really quite easy. Ridiculously easy. It's a little intimidating when you don't know what you're doing, but let me assure you, for anyone who's not done it, it is so easy that you guys you'll laugh when you see how easy it is, and you think, oh, I was nervous about that. Why was I nervous about that? And one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason why it's so easy, is because it happens, it's all right here on your FMS. I've got the FMS down here in the corner, and everything you need to make a position report is on the FMS. There's basically 3 stages of information they need. They need the position you're reporting over, the next position, and the position after that. And for the position you're reporting over, they need the exact time. They also need your Mach number and your flight level. And for the next one, they just need the time, and then they just need to know the fix after that. So, to use the example, we passed 53 north, 30 west a little while ago. I would call up Gander Radio, and I would say, or Shanwick Radio, I guess we're now into after we pass 30. And hold on a second. Interrupted once again. Alright, as I was saying, the position report is ridiculously easy to do. It takes very little effort because every FMS is designed around this position report because it's been given so many times. It follows the same format every single time. So these FMSs, they came along and they said, let's design them so that they have all the information you need right where you need it. So on the Boeings, you usually go to the progress page. On the Airbuses, you just go right to the flight plan page, and all the information you need is there. At the very top of the page will be the last waypoint you passed over, usually, and then it'll have the exact time that you passed over there. It'll mark it down, it'll record it for you to look at later, and then it'll also show you your next waypoint, the time over that, and the waypoint thereafter, which is the things you need, and then of course the flight level and the Mach number you would read directly off your flight plan or directly off your instruments, and that's all there is to it. So again, right now we're in Shanwick's airspace, so you'd say Shanwick Radio, position report, wait for them to respond, and then they would, then you come back with, starting right here, Transat 360 passed over 53 north by 30 west, at time 1637 Zulu, at flight level 370, Mach decimal 826. Estimating 54 north, 20 west at 1719 Zulu, and Dogal thereafter. And that's it. And Shanwick would read back exactly what you just told them, just to confirm everything, and you would say read back correct if it all was. If it wasn't, you'd correct it, and that's it. Your position report is done. It's that easy. You read it right off the FMS, so it's super easy. Just read right through the FMS. And it's designed that way so that you can do these position reports quickly and easily. And that is basically the biggest thing about oceanic flying. It's just doing that regular position report, and then basically you don't have to make another call until you reach your next waypoint. the normal expectation is that you're probably not going to get any other calls as well. You may get a call, but in general, the radio reception out over the Atlantic is not great either. The normal VHF radios that you actually use for most ATC communication do not work well over long distances. Similar to radar, there is a limitation to when they can receive, to how far they can receive transmissions. So normally over the Atlantic we actually use HF radios, high frequency radios, instead of VHF radios. Those waves are longer, but they tend to bend more, so that they will follow the curvature of the Earth, so they will actually travel out over the ocean better, and they will also reflect off the ionosphere, which also helps them get even a longer range. So you can receive way out in the middle of the ocean when you're 1,000 miles from land. You can still receive these signals pretty well, but they are not the clearest frequencies. There does tend to be a lot more background noise on these than there tends to be on the VHF frequencies. This is one of the reasons why the system exists the way it does with these readbacks, is because the amount of background noise, it can be often very hard, especially when you're right in the middle of the Atlantic, to hear what's being said from a transmitter 1,000, 1,200 miles away. This is the reason why then that the CellCal system was developed a long time ago. The CellCal system basically is like a little pager system for airplanes. So instead of having someone listening to the HF radio for hours on end for probably what will not be a call that will ever come into them until you actually instigate a call, and listening to that endless background static hiss going along the whole time, instead every aircraft is assigned a 4-letter code, which is usually marked somewhere in the flight deck because it's permanently assigned to that aircraft, and it's programmed into the radio specifically. And what the controllers on the ground can then do is type in that one specific 4-letter code. 4 letters is not enough for every airplane to have its own unique code, but when they type in that 4-letter code, only airplanes that have that corresponding 4-letter code will have a chime, usually in the flight deck, and a light go on to indicate that there's a radio call coming in that's aimed particularly at that airplane. Even if there's more than one airplane with the same CellCal code, it works fairly well, because all it does is it just prompts the pilots to turn up the radio and start listening. And then when they start calling, and they may even try to make contact as well, saying, hey, were you calling us? Even if there's more than one airplane in the North Atlantic that has the same CellCal code, there's probably only 2 or maybe 3, so at least there's only 2 or 3 people turning up their volume in the flight deck and trying to get a hold of the ground station, as opposed to everybody going, huh, who was that last one for? Let's all call at once and see what happens. So hence the CellCal system exists, so you don't have to listen to the radio all the time. You can sort of sit there with the radios turned down and just listen to the chime. And when that chime kicks in, that's when you need to call. The other problem with that chime as well is that you need to check first of all that it's working. So whenever you do an entrance to the North Atlantic system, especially, you'll do what's called a CellCal check. You'll give the controller your 4-letter identity and ask for that check. They will make that transmission just to make sure, just to verify that it does work, and that you do get the light and the chime when they try to send that code. If it doesn't work, then you are going to have to listen to the frequency the whole time. So here's hoping it works for you. Anyways, North Atlantic operations are not hard. Require a little bit of planning, a little bit of understanding of what you're doing. But I find most of the controllers out here as well are very forgiving and helpful. They, especially the last 2 months or so, as the amount of people doing long-range flying because they have the time has really exploded. There has been there's been a marked increase in the amount of novices and newbies flying across the oceans, which is fine. You know, you get a chance to learn, and as I said, most of the controllers have been very patient. I've watched them. When someone doesn't know what information to pass along in a position report, most of them have a template already set up. They just quickly cut and paste, and it sends in text usually very quickly. This is what I need from you as a controller. Please give me this information, and then you're done. So it makes it pretty easy. I'm very happy to see that most people are generally very patient with that, which is good. And that's basically it. So now we're cruising along in the Atlantic. It looks like 17:21 will be our time over the next position. So that's a little over 20 minutes from now. And once we get there, we can make another position report to nobody in particular, and then that'll be it. Then we'll be flying towards our exit point. So Dogal is the exit point from Shanwick airspace, and we'll be entering Shannon domestic airspace thereafter, crossing through Europe, where hopefully there will be some ATC online as we get down there. It'll be afternoon into evening, so it's probably getting towards the busier time of day for Europe anyways. I see there is some London control online, actually Manchester control. There is some Manchester control online. I don't see anything for Amsterdam. Hopefully there will be. Amsterdam tends to be a very busy airport. Schiphol's a very busy airport. There are 11 airplanes on the ground at Schiphol right now with no ATC. So unfortunately people are generally very polite and very helpful, but it does help when there's some ATC to sort of just help sequence things a little more logically. But it is definitely getting into peak time in Europe. Numbers on VATSIM are going up, and there's 15 people departing London Heathrow right now. So that's one thing that I think we're starting to move on from now, and it's been absolutely wonderful for VATSIM to have so many people stuck at home all the time, bored out of their skulls, and trying to have some fun. It's going to be a bit of a disappointment when this all starts to go back to normal and the traffic levels fall. I hope it won't fall down to where they were before. I hope some people will still remember how much fun we've had, and the level will perhaps stay a little higher than it was in the past, but I don't think it's going to ever. I think it will start to drop off now. I think we've probably seen our peak traffic pretty much during COVID at this time, and I think as people slowly start trickling in back to work in various countries around the world, you're going to start to see it more and more, that people are heading back to work, unfortunately. It'll be a bit of a shame because this network has really benefited from it. But there's not much you can do. Maybe a quick little mid-Atlantic check here. So let's see here. We are estimating 1918, 1 hour and 20 minutes, just under 1 hour and 20 minutes now until we land in Amsterdam, which is good. We're going to start to see Ireland come over the horizon there soon. Let's see, a quick evaluation here. We got 20 tons of fuel left. That's the biggest thing of all when you're flying. Fuel is time, is possibilities. The more fuel you burn up, the less possibilities you have. So always make sure you're aware of your fuel, your time situation when you're flying. But we are slowly getting there. Even so, we're showing almost 10 tons of fuel. So basically, we need about half the fuel we have left on board to get to Amsterdam. We have almost 10 tons of fuel thereafter, which even down low, that's going to be easily probably an hour or more of fuel, extra fuel, when we get to Amsterdam, which is great. It gives us time, it gives us options if we need to need to maneuver anyways around all the various traffic that's in Amsterdam. It won't be much of an issue. Of course, every so often, really about every 30 minutes, we should be doing like a thorough check of the airplane, checking our fuel on board against our plan. So we can do it. Whoops, not that one, this one down here. What you can do is you can check it against the plan. If I can pull up the plan here. So, did we have fuel over? Yes, fuel on board when we passed 5330 was 22.1. So let's check that against the plan and see how that's holding up. 5330, we were supposed to have 20.9. I did top it up by like an extra half a ton, so we should have had, probably realistically, this was the plan. I topped it up a half a ton, so we should have had 21.4. We had 22.1, so we had about an extra, almost a ton of extra fuel. Not quite, but almost an extra ton. So we're burning less than expected, which is always good. It's important to watch these things, though, watch the trend. This is one thing that bugs me a little bit, is that probably the most useful thing that's missing on the SimBrief flight plan. Our flight plans have this. We have three things in the fuel column. We have the EFOB and the AFOB, which AFOB is actual fuel on board, so if you printed this flight plan, you would actually jot in the number, well, here anyways, 20.9, you jot in 22.1, and that way you could always have a running total as you're going of how your fuel situation is doing. The one thing that's missing from here, and that's a really useful field to have, is MFOB, which is minimum fuel on board. This would be the minimum fuel you could have on board at each point, and know that you're still going to get to your destination with your minimum reserve fuel. So we need So I'm lugging around 21 minutes of contingency fuel and 20 minutes of extra fuel. So 41 minutes of extra fuel in total. But in order to meet the requirements, just to get to Amsterdam with basically these two numbers, the 30-minute reserve plus the fuel to get to Brussels, so 56 minutes of fuel on board, and basically taking the fuel burn expected for each leg, how much fuel do I need to have at this point and still arrive at Amsterdam with that 56 minutes of fuel on board? And if I ever fall below that minimum fuel on board, because I could be below the expected fuel on board, we got a longer route, we maybe had a delay on the ground, something happened, a delayed climb, then we might have a little bit less fuel than we expected. And that's okay as long as you're above that minimum fuel on board. The minimum fuel on board is probably the more critical number, because that, if you're falling below that, you do not have enough fuel to complete the flight. You've got to look at a diversion. So that's one thing that's missing from the SimBrief flight plans that is extremely useful from the flight plans that I've seen in the Lido system. Minimum fuel on board is a great number to have. You know exactly, if you fall below that, you know you're going to have some problems. You know you're going to have to deal with at some point. So I kind of wish that they had that. But anyways, it does look like we are well above the expected fuel on board as well. So that's great. And we'll also cycle through our various systems to make sure everything is running hunky-dory. Engine vibrations are all well within the limits. Oil pressure's holding up. Bleed systems, everything is, again, hunky-dory. Everything's green. Everything is normal values. Nothing is unusual. Cabin altitude's holding nicely. No problems there. The landing elevation has also been set already, which is great. Electrical AC power, just churning up 10% from each generator. Not much at all. TRUs are all looking very good. Batteries, voltages are fine. Everybody's voltage is fine. Hydraulic systems, everybody's got some fluid being used, but the pressures are all pretty nominal, right around 3,000 psi, give or take. APU's obviously not running. Conditioning, everybody's keeping the cabin nice and warm. Doors are good. Doors and oxygen. Wheels, everything, all the pressures are holding. Brakes are all pretty cold because they haven't been used for hours and hours. Flight controls, got a little bit of pitch trim in there, but all the controls are pretty much neutral. And last but not least, fuel. Again, probably one of the more complex systems and one of the more critical because it's one that's constantly being used up. You need to monitor it closely. So we've got, let's see here, 5 tons in each of the main tanks, and then we've got 2,800 in each outer tank, 3 tons still in the tail tank. And slowly that's going to start draining down here. I think when we get below 5,000, it's going to start draining from the outer main tanks to the inner main tanks. The other thing you can always do as well is double check, add up the fuel used to your fuel on board. So 29.5, which is almost basically 30, plus 19.5, so we'll say 30 plus 19 adds up to 49. So based on the math, the fuel that went into the engines and the fuel left in the tanks, we haven't lost any. This is really good for detecting a leak. If your fuel used plus your fuel on board adds up to less than you started with, then somewhere you're losing fuel that's not going into an engine, and that could be a problem. But everything appears to be pretty normal, so we'll go ahead and cycle that fuel page off and back onto just our cruise status page, and that's it for now. That's my little North Atlantic operations right now. I don't see too much else going on to talk about here. We're going to get into domestic airspace in about, let's see here, I'm not on the wrong page yet, so I can't see it. We got about 40 minutes until we start to enter domestic airspace, so we'll step away for about another 40 minutes. Once we get into domestic European airspace and we have to be here to talk to people, then we'll come back online. But we're going to step away again for a little bit here, and as I said, we'll come back probably in about 40 minutes and probably stay on for the rest of the stream, finish it off. So anybody watching, thanks very much for watching. Stick with me. Come back in about 45 after the hour, and hopefully we'll have ourselves some ATC. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. We'll see what happens. Alright guys, Captain Abs is back with you in the flight deck once again. Welcome back. We are just an hour left on our flight here to over to Amsterdam. I can't believe it looks like we're actually going to make it. The plane's being pretty reliable. I don't want to speak too soon, But one little weird glitch that I did notice that happened in the last couple of minutes here was that at some time about 20 or 30 minutes ago, somehow the memory usage in Prepared reset itself. As I've said, this airplane had a little bit of a bad habit of slowly chewing up more and more memory, and I know it's this airplane because nothing else, this is the only add-on that's common to it when I have this issue. No other airplane seems to do it. And the weirdest thing happened about 20 minutes or so ago, and that is that it went to almost nothing. It freed up suddenly 4 gigs of RAM that it was using up without me doing anything. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I come back and I'm just monitoring the resources, and it went from using over 5.5 gigs of RAM to a little under 2. And I don't know how that happened. It was very strange. And yeah, I'm a little bit at a loss, honestly. A little bit at a loss. But we are slowly coming over Europe, so if you have a look here out the window now, we just passed Ireland behind us there. I don't know if you can see it very well out the window there, but behind us is Ireland. We're just passing over into Britain. We're just crossing, I believe this is Wales here on our right side there, just to our south, and we're just going to cross sort of the mid part of England and off onto Amsterdam. So I've got a couple of controllers online. I don't know if any of them are actually responsible for the sector that we're flying through. I'm going to see if I can send a couple of see if I can get a little bit of an idea. Actually, one thing they do have is they do have a sector map. If I go area sectors. And it seems to be a pretty common link a lot of people type in. So let's see here. If we fall under this one, and I don't believe, no, we're in the north center, and I don't think we're going to ever transition into the south or west center, so unfortunately this is where we are. We're just on the north side of Wales. So I found the map here. This is the map of all the various sectors here in the London center, and we are just coming across. We crossed Liffey. I know we're crossing across Wall, MCT, so we're pretty much just and right over to Lamso anyways for our arrival into Amsterdam. So we're pretty much going right across just this north center. If I see London North Center log on, I will definitely check it out. But otherwise, it's nice to have this though, because it is sometimes confusing for pilots, being unfamiliar with who is responsible and sending a lot of text messages sometimes to try and figure out who is covering what. So it's kind of nice to have something simple like this that shows you exactly where you are, and I love that they have the waypoints on here too, so that really helps the common entry and exit points that we're all using. So yeah, Liffey, I think we just passed Wall. No, we're not there yet, actually. We're just halfway through here, but we're about to cross over Wall shortly here, MCT. So yeah, really helpful though. So thank you guys for putting that into your controller comments, because that helps some of us who don't know where we're going figure out what we're doing here. Alright, so getting back in the airplane, we're getting there now. If I zoom out far enough on the map, you can just see it starting to scroll into view here. Here's our top of descent point at about 160 miles. So it's time to start thinking about setting up for this arrival into Amsterdam. Certainly it's not... we're not there yet, but we're starting to get pretty close. Alright, give me 1 second here. We're just going to do something really quick here. Okay, there we go. Alright, so before we do anything else, we do have to set up the arrival shortly, but I'd just like to point out now our fuel transfer status here. So we got outer tank transfer and trim tank transfer. So on the fuel page, if I bring it up here, so now it not only is it doing trim tank transfer, where it's basically transfer fuel from the trim tank, which it looks like trim tank transferred, it's done, but now it's also, you can see these little green icons here indicating that fuel is slowly draining out of these outer tanks. So fuel is now being drained from the outer tanks to the inner tanks. And you can just see the outer tank numbers starting to fall slowly here and work their way into the inner tank. So by the time we get to Amsterdam, the outer tank should be empty, and the only fuel tanks that will have fuel left are these inner tanks. And this is all automated, which is the great thing about this system. It's a fairly complicated system in terms of the logic of when it does various steps, but it's basically, if everything's working properly, you don't have to do much at all. The airplane just sort of does its own thing, which is great. It tells you when it's doing things, and that's good, but it basically runs its own thing, which is great. Alright, and we were supposed to do a step climb to 390 a little while back, so let's go ahead and do that. 390, climb, managed climb. And how are we doing time-wise here? Still saying 1919. New cruise altitude 39, good. That's what we wanted. And it is showing 1919 for our destination in Amsterdam, so it's looking good. It's still nice, bright, and sunny here. We managed to get here in daylight hours, which is great. That was something I was worried about was arriving in the dark, just because these streams don't turn out as well when it's dark out, plain and simple. Alright, so, map partly displayed, there's too much stuff on there. Okay, I'm not too worried about it, it provides a nice reference sort of what's around us. I can get rid of it if I needed to, but I don't really need to. So what we're going to do now is start thinking about our arrival into Amsterdam here. I don't see an ATIS for Amsterdam. Give me 1 second. Let me just check my vPilot here. And do we have any controllers on in Amsterdam? Let me just scroll over there. We do have controllers. Funny enough, they don't have an ATIS up. They have delivery, ground, tower, and approach, but no ATIS up, so what are you going to do? And you're just going to have to guess what runway they're using. So be it. Until we get a little closer, we're just going to have to guess. Amsterdam weather, 1755 Zulu, so that's about 45 minutes ago, I guess. Let's see here. There's Alt Cruise Star. Did have quite a bit of surplus power for this climb, which is good. The plane is definitely a lot lighter. We've burned off 35 tons of fuel, so she's a lot lighter than she was. Okay, so let's see here. We're looking for winds 310 at 7, 270 of variable around to 340, cab okay, 17, 11. So the way I see it, probably 207 is a pretty reasonable estimate. 1022 for the 1022 for the altimeter setting, so I'm just going to set that on the backup here, and that's already set for us. Great. Just trying to think here. Yeah, I think we'll leave it set up as 27. I believe that's what we had it set up as before we did. There it is. And it is the LAMSO 2 Alpha arrival. We will cross LAMSO, there's no doubt about that. And transition there, so yeah, I think at this point we're going to stick with the plan. So the one thing you need to do, of course, before you do anything else, performance page, and just get up your landing data here. I already forgot what I said. 1022. 1022 is the QNH, and 17 degrees is the temperature in Amsterdam. It's a beautiful day out there. And minimums, pretty much every approach here, if you do the ILS, is a barrel minimum. 188, I've done the approaches here before quite a few times. 200 feet above ground, the ground of course being 12 feet below sea level here at the airport in Amsterdam, which is always kind of funny when you think about it. Alright, you can already see the other side of England coming up. It's getting there. We're getting there. And let's see. So we've got the approach numbers in here. We've got, let's start pulling up the charts here on my on my EFB here. Oh, I want to call my FMC, my EFB. So let's go ahead and change the airport. And EHAM it is. And boy, do we have a lot of airport charts here in Amsterdam. Good thing I realized that you can drag this around. Okay, so we don't need to read all the briefing charts. We are going to want the airport chart. Add to kneeboard. We are going to want the parking stands. Add to kneeboard. We are going to want the stars and the approaches. So stars, there's really not that many stars into Amsterdam for such a busy airport. It's funny they keep the arrivals very simple. There we go. Got that. And go down to the bottom and do instrument approach procedures. So for now, we're going to plan ILS or local runway 27. But we're planning. Well, if it changes, it changes. I can remove this. I'll just leave the Toronto chart on there because at some point I'm going to need that again. LAMSO 2 Alpha arrival is pretty easy here. And if we hit up the flight plan, we'll verify everything in the LAMSO 2 Alpha arrival. LAMSO, at or below 230, jets only. And then we hit up ETPOS, and then Sugal, and that's the end of the arrival right there. It's a pretty straightforward arrival. Sugal, jets only below 10,000. Which 10,100 is close enough. No speed restrictions published specifically on the waypoints. Transition level is by ATC. RNAV equipment mandatory. Navigation in the initial intermediate approach is primarily based on radar vectors provided by ATC. So we're expecting radar vectors. We do have Amsterdam approach, which is great. Additionally, ATC may request specific speeds for accurate spacing, comply with any level or speed adjustment as soon as possible within operational requirements. If a level or speed change for aircraft performance reasons or weather conditions is necessary, advise ATC. Actual descent clearance will be as issued by ATC. Speed for jets to max 250 below 10,000. And unless otherwise instructed, max 250 at the initial approach fix. Clearance limit on this page is Sugal. Refer to the 10-1 pop-up pages for comm failure procedures. So we'll hit up Sugal, and then at that point we'll transition to our approach. I'm expecting before or shortly after Sugal, we're probably going to get some radar vectors here. But in case we don't, there is a transition from Sugal onto the ILS-27. That's what I'm planning right now. If it changes, it changes. That's cool. We can always put something else in. And now there's discon here. The transition is not in there properly, so let's do this. Arrival, I thought I did this, but approach transition. So the LAMSO 2 Alpha, the ILS-27, but we need via Sugal. We need the waypoints for that in there. So now we have LAMSO and post Sugal, and then we have D2920 and SPL. There it is. So SPL, which is the Schiphol VOR, and then we go out to EH804 and hook a left turn. In reality, I'm expecting we're going to get a vector for a right-hand downwind, but failing anything else, this is what we've got. EH615 and then TIDVO inbound on the ILS. Verify that we do have the correct radio weight in here. Yes, so we do have 111.55, 267 the inbound course. No glide slope altitudes published. Minimums again, Cat 1, 188 feet. Approach airport elevation is at minus 11 feet. The MSA is highest southeast of the Schiphol VOR, 2,300 is the highest MSA. Most sectors, 1,700. Missed approaches climb on a track of 267 to 3,000 feet, basically straight ahead, and inform ATC immediately. So straight ahead, 3,000 feet, inform ATC. DME is required. There's the D, it is on the, ILS DME, so it is on the ILS frequency as well. Warning, when average wind surface velocity exceeds 30 knots, moderate turbulence can be expected on final approach from approximately 3 to 1 DME. Simultaneous approaches on runways 6-18 center, 18 right, or 3-6 right may be executed, and when established on ILS, maintain 116 knots until 4 DME or as directed. ILS reads 0 at the 7 threshold. So we're going to expect to probably intercept the glide slope at 2,000 feet. Do not descend below the descent profile. Pappy's on the left, Hiles 2 lighting system. And as I said, 188 feet, we need RVR 550 meters. It's cap okay. It's a beautiful day. Not too worried about the weather there in Amsterdam. Once we've landed in Amsterdam, I don't even know where we're going to park. We'll let those guys help us figure it out. But if we land on 27, it's going to be convenient left turn off November 9 or, November 3 or November 4. And convenient parking location. There's tons and tons of parking here, so I don't know where we're going to go, and it's really hard to see this in night mode. This might be actually easier to read in day mode. Easier, anyways. The contrast is not good enough at night. I honestly have no idea where Transat parks. I guess we could Google that, though. I don't think we're going to find any recent flight-aware information. think this flight has not flown for a month or two. Transat has been one of those companies that's been hard hit, and they just shut it down. They're a vacation carrier. Almost all of their travel is discretionary travel. So as soon as people stop traveling discretionary, it just sort of ended for them. They just called it quits and said, nope, we're not doing anything, it's not working for us, and that's fine. You know what, I don't think that was an unreasonable call on their part. They're a vacation carrier. Nobody was really expecting them to keep operating very many people in their flights, so can't even seem to get... Let's see if I can find some information, though. Terminals, Air Transat, Amsterdam. They do Terminal 3 by the looks of it. This looks Europe, Amsterdam, Netherlands. Terminal 3, such as it is. I don't know that helps me very much because I don't know where Terminal 3 is. I'm going to have to find a map of the Amsterdam airport. It says Terminal 3, but it's really just one giant terminal, so I don't understand the difference. They got a lot of maps, and they have about 20 different concourses listed, but nobody has a Terminal 3 marked. Google, you're failing me here. Departure Hall 3. So Departure Hall 3 appears F, G, and HM. Okay. F and G are non-Schengen areas, which I believe means non-European Union areas. So F and G appear to be the piers we're heading to. Pretty sure Pier F is, yes, it's a lot of large, heavy gates, so I imagine we're heading to Pier F somewhere. So that's going to be a pretty quick taxi in after we land, which is good. Alright, and that is basically my approach briefing. Anybody have any questions? No? No. As always, my FO is a strong silent type. Want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and viewers on adviewers.com. Love it. Don't need people advertising for the viewers in my channel, and I am not gonna be trying to buy viewers. People, if you like what you see, you can watch the channel. If you don't, move along. I'm not interested in buying viewers. Earn all my viewers the old-fashioned way. Alright, we're getting there though. We only got about 40 miles now. We killed that last 100 miles pretty quickly there, just talking about the arrival. So we're getting there pretty quickly, guys. Hooray, hooray! It's coming up slowly but surely. Here goes our flight. We're most of the way across Great Britain here. It doesn't take very long to cross this country. It's a pretty narrow country. And once we get to Lamso, we're going to be crawling Amsterdam approach and getting ready for our arrival. Good times, good times. And it looks like a busy afternoon there too, so it's going to be great. Going to see a lot of airplanes. Going to reduce our frame rate to practically nil, but I'm okay with that. I'm just happy to get it done. It's almost there. Look at this. Going to earn a good 7 hours of pay on this flight too, at least, which is great. I've been a little bit sparse on the paycheck, but again, this airplane had me worried, and I don't want to jinx it. I really don't want to jinx it, but it's doing pretty good right now. She is doing pretty good. She seems to be like we're going to make it. I hope. I hope, but seems pretty reliable at this point. Seems pretty well set up. So, yeah, we're going to be reaching our top and drop here very soon. got about 10 minutes, not even 5 minutes till our top of drop. If anybody's got anything to talk about, please let me know. I'm going to start looking at tuning in the approach frequency for... Oh, did we... Wait a second. No, that's, I just looked at that. EHAM West Approach 121.2. So 121.2 seems like where we're going to need to be next. I don't think we're even on Unicom, are we? No, we're not. We forgot to switch to Unicom when our Shanwick dropped offline, so... There's Unicom. What did I say? 121.2. So we'll get that ready to go because any minute now. That was just my top of drop pause still on from my previous flight. Had me worried there for a second that it was about to die. Oh lord. Make it all this way and have that crash at the last possible second. Oh. I don't know, my heart could take that again. Oh lord. So at Lamso was when we cross into Amsterdam, the Dutch airspace, Netherlands airspace, but yeah. We'll probably be calling them a little bit before that. I'm sure they'll be pinging me with a contact me shortly. Alright. Let's see how close we are to this top of drop here. Stop doing that. There we go. I'll set 10,000 as the altitude for now, or flight level 100 as it is in Europe. And we got 10 miles to go, so we'll go ahead and just put it into descent. And there we go. We got 10 tons of fuel left on board, and we're pretty much just going to idle it in from here, guys. Just crossing the east coast of England right now. Can't quite see it yet, but any minute now. The Netherlands are going to scroll into view. And away we go. Looking pretty good. Looking like this airplane is going to survive this trip to Europe, which fills me with joy. After all the effort I put into resetting my sim completely from scratch, it's nice to see the airplane working properly. It really is. One thing I have done that I did a little differently is I've shied away from all the high texture packs now. So I did put in everything pretty much, my active sky cloud art and everything, but I've shied away from the high def texture packs now. Partly to make sure my sim doesn't run out of memory, partly in the name of preserving a bit of performance, but I've tried to stay away from that now because it's been in the past. It's been, in the past it's been. I think it's been part of the reason why the performance on my sim starts to grind away at some of these major airports, and Schiphol will be no exception. It's a busy airport right now. There's a bunch of airplanes on the ground, so my AI packages are going to use up a lot of memory. But it's also it's the Fly Tampa Amsterdam, which is a great scenery, but a very big, very complicated airport with lots of objects, lots of textures, and it does create a big performance hit because of that. I can accept that, but I'm trying to stay away a little bit from all the high texture packs. There's a few softwares that have the high texture packs. I've been trying to stay away from them just to try and preserve performance, especially with this airplane, because this airplane has been finicky for me, and I don't want it to be finicky. I want it to survive. I want it to survive. Sad that that's the statement I'm making, but I want it to survive the trip without ruining my sim, which so far I think we've made it to the descent phase. Thanks to that little memory usage reset, I don't know what triggered that. I would love to know what triggered it, because I would do it on a regular basis. I don't know if anything I did, if it was an automatic cleanup generated by the sim, or maybe by the airplane after a certain amount of time in the air. Whatever reason it did that for, I'm happy about. me, but no, I changed views by mistake. Alright, so we got about 50 miles till we enter Amsterdam's airspace here. Probably in about another 20 miles we'll be calling them to make sure we are able to get set up early too. That's the other thing too. Making sure that we can get set up before we get to the approach phase, particularly because I don't know what runway they're using. They have not put up an ATIS. They've got tons of controllers, but they haven't put up an ATIS. I'm not really faulting them for it because honestly, ever since AFV came along, ATISes have not always worked reliably. They should work. They should work quite well in theory, but they've been hit or miss. Some people have issues with them. Some people have issues creating them and setting them up, and some people have issues receiving them. So it's been, unfortunately, it's been a bit of a challenge keeping ATISes going. So I don't fault anyone or any controllers if they haven't been able to get their ATISes going. I don't hold it against anybody. Alright, and enter destination data. We did already. It's done. Don't worry. It's done. Might have to change it, but it's done. I like this airplane. I really do. If it wasn't so crash happy on my sim, I would fly it a lot more, but it stresses me out just sitting here flying it. Especially having done as much time as we have in the airplane, knowing that it could fail at any point in time. What a disappointment that would be. Traffic on the TCAS there. Alright, since we're not going to get any London control on, let's go ahead and get ourselves dialed in here.
Approach KLM 73 Foxtrot Bravo passing 2020 feet.
KLM 73 Foxtrot Bravo, hello, climb to flight level 130.
Climb flight level 130.
And ready here, so he's going to throw all sorts of stuff at me, no doubt. Where's my pad of paper too? Can never find anything around here. Amsterdam approach, good evening. Transat 360 Heavy 306 descending 25 miles west of Lamso.
Station calling at Lamso, say again, call sign only?
Transat 360. I think I said the wrong distance, it was closer to 35 miles.
Transat 360, sorry, you're still slightly above my radar range, so I don't have you yet. But fly the Lamso arrival for runway 06. Information is Echo and descent level 70.
Okay, we'll fly the Lamso 2 Alpha arrival. We'll change it up for runway 06. There's no ATIS currently online, and descend flight level 70, Transat 360. Alright, so flight level 70 is set. We'll fly the Lamso 2 Alpha arrival, which is what we said, but we have to change it up for runway 06.
Transat 360, I understand you cannot receive a voice ATIS. We all seem to have problems with voice servers and the ATIS at the moment, but you should be able to grab at least the text version from the VATSIM server.
Oh, actually we do see it now. Apologies for that. We didn't see it earlier.
Roger.
It is there. Oh, I sound like an idiot. Okay. So now we got to make sure Lamso's still in there. Lamso
approach, good evening,
at
Ryan,
post
190 Charlie with you,
Sugal.
flight level 210.
Rhino 190.
ENAV is having a little bit of fun trying to make a calculation right now as to where we should be.
Runway 06. Descend to flight level 40. Turn right, heading 090.
Roger, heading 90.
And let's see here. Okay, so Skippo. What am I doing here? Okay, so
Ryan, 190 Charlie.
let's go over here quickly and make sure that everything is changed up. So, new runway for landing, which means we need to review our landing speeds here. And our barrel ref. I'm going to do a big free landing, actually. So, VLS 133, V approach 138. Okay, so, let's go back to ILS 06. So I had this totally wrong. ILS or local runway 06. That's cool. Let's go ahead and kneeboard that, and then we come back to our kneeboard, then it's not so distracting. Okay, so ILS for 06. Sugal again goes to Schiphol, and then we go out to the CHNDB, CH, and then all the way around to 003EH614. Yeah, there it is. So all the way around EH614, and then CI06, all the way around to 06. That's good. So nav radio's 1055 now, and 058 the inbound course. No glide slope altitude published.
360 radar contact now. After Sugal, direct Sierra Papa Lima.
After Sugal, direct Schiphol VOR for Transat 360. Which
Lufthansa 3 Kilo Mike.
is exactly what it's doing already.
QNH 1022.
Alright, so nav radios again. 110.55, 058.
428, turn right, heading 330.
189 is actually the minimums on this.
330, KLM 428.
So we can change it there really quick. 189 for the approach phase.
Ryanair 190 Charlie, turn
there we
right,
go.
heading 110.
The airport and the runway at minus 11, and the MSA 2,300 feet again. Missed approach in this case is climb on 058 to 2,000 feet. Straight ahead, 2,000 feet, inform ATC immediately. Simultaneous approaches to 9, 18 center, 18 right, 27 or 36 right may be executed. When established on ILS, maintain 160 knots to 4 DME. ILS DME reads 0 at the threshold. Locator beacon, around outbound, expect intercept at 2,000. And Pappy's on the left, Hiles lighting system, Hiles 2 lighting system. 550, it's again Cav OK. This case, we're going to be landing, it's going to be a left turn off the runway, convenient left turn off the runway, Sierra 3 or maybe Sierra 4 probably, I would think. And then we're going to go all the way around to get to the Foxtrot gates. And that's it. I don't believe we got anything else. It is starting to get a little bit darker out there now. It's starting to, the sun's starting to go down here as we head east, so. Yeah, so things are starting to get a little dark. I'm going to have to turn some lights on soon. Okay. The one thing I have to remember before I forget is auto brakes are medium. And then I think that's it. We don't need descent checklist. It says we're a little high on the path now, so let's bring the speed brake out a little bit there and see if we can get catch up to our path here. And while we're at it here, let's just check that 8 is out. And there it is. Okay, so information is Echo main landing 6, takeoff runway 36 left, transition level 40, 3107 knots, variable 270 to 340, cap, okay.
Charlie, I missed the first part of your transmission. Just follow the arrival, right?
Speed brake still extended. 1022.
Batavia 81 Charlie A-firm.
Still there. Okay, we're over at post and on our way to
428 contact tower on 119.225.
And 119.225 for the tower, which is good to have, ready to go. Perfect, 119.225. That's a lovely sound, guys. Somebody does not have a good mic there. Alright, but we're getting down there. We're getting down there now pretty quickly.
PC 901 Tango Bravo, hello, climb to flight level 130.
How are we doing temperature-wise outside? Temperature a tad of plus 13.
3 kilo Mike, turn right heading 330.
It's not going to be any problem with all those clouds there.
Ryanair 190 Charlie, turn right heading 240.
Right 240, Ryanair 190 Charlie.
Busy evening though. It's getting into evening in Europe, which is great.
Yeah, 81 Charlie,
See
proceed direct Charlie Hotel.
some of the Netherlands down there off the left side.
Charlie Hotel, contact 81 Charlie.
And any second now, there's that pink dot that has deceleration point, so we can decelerate to the 250 knots.
3 kilo Mike, turn right heading 030. Cleared ILS approach, runway 06. Right, 030, cleared ILS 06, cleared 3 kilo Mike.
Oh. Wow, who knew this would get done? I would not have thought it, honestly. This plane has been such a bear to me. We're almost there. There it is. So now she's slowed to 250. You can see 250 there on the PFD. Extend speed brake.
Approach, Papa Hotel Sierra Victor Tango, radio check.
Silly FMS. You're supposed to plan these things.
Tango,
There it goes.
hello, Radio 5.
So it now has put us underneath the path, which means we're going to pitch up to go catch back up to the path above us, which is going to allow us to slow
Ryanair
down.
190 Charlie, descent altitude 2,000 feet, QNH 1022.
Supposed to be super ladder below 10,000. I find that FMS for some reason does some calculations where it's 100 to 200 feet high off these restrictions, which is within like a reasonable limit for ATC, but I'm surprised it doesn't meet those restrictions. Why would it not just calculate to be at 10,000? Why does it calculate to be at 10,100? Very strange sometimes. Alright, that's close enough for now.
Approach, goedenavond, Papa Hotel Sierra Victor Tango at Rotterdam Airport with information whiskey, requesting IVR clearance to Lelystad.
Alright. Approach checklist. Approach briefing is confirmed. ECAM status.
Papa
Yes.
Hotel Sierra
Checked.
Victor Tango. Clearance Lelystad.
Seatbelts are on. Barrow ref
Climb 3,000 feet
will be
initially.
1022 when we set it.
03.
And MDADA is 189 feet. Engine mode selectors are norm. Approach checklist is complete.
Squawk 7003.
Okay, we passed Sugal and we're 400 feet high still for some reason.
Correct. Ryanair 190 Charlie, turn left heading 090, cleared ILS approach, runway 06.
VNAV does some weird things in this airplane sometimes.
ILS 06, Ryanair 190 Charlie.
Lufthansa 3 kilo Mike, contact tower on 119.225. Bye bye. 119.225, thanks for your Good evening, Mike, thanks. Lufthansa 360, descend 2,000 feet, QNH 1022.
Descend 2,000 feet, 1022 on the QNH. We now have Echo Transat 360. Let's do open descent to 2,000. And now, because we are transitioning, 1022, 1022.
Papa Hotel Sierra Victor Tango requesting engine start. Papa Victor Tango, startup approved, QNH 1022, 8 is whiskey.
It's weird to hear startup approved on the approach frequency.
Startup approved.
But I guess he must be at one of the satellite
Papa Hotel
airports.
Sierra Victor Tango. Transat 360, turn right heading 145.
Right turn heading 145, Transat 360. Heading 145.
Bavaria 81 Charlie, descend to
Heading
flight
mode.
level 40.
Descend to flight level 40, contact 81 Charlie.
We are in open descent.
Flight level 180 for flight level
20 miles till we get to the final approach course here.
Bavaria 21 Mike, hello, 8 is Echo.
As long as we don't get slowed down, we'll probably be okay here.
Descend to flight level 70.
Runway 06 and descend to flight level 70, Transavia 21 Mike.
I wonder if I should maybe just put the lights on anyways now. starting to get a little bit dark. It's not really dark, but it's starting to get a little bit dark. Now, I believe we determined that at Amsterdam we should park at the Foxtrot gates. So let's get GSX loaded up here. I'll just pick one in the middle, F6. We can use,
Good evening, KLM 26 Golf 1700 climbing flight level 60 on the Kudet 1 Victor departure.
and that flight campus scenery should be loaded. I didn't see too much of a sim jitter there when it loaded, which is great. Seems to be doing okay here. I think we're going to need to start to expedite this descent a little bit here. Let's go ahead. So somewhere out there, we're starting to get some of the, that's the Netherlands there anyways, I don't know. Schiphol should be somewhere right over there. Is that it right there? Hard to see. When we turn final, we'll spot it for sure. Okay, we'll lose about 3,000 feet in 10 miles. That's okay. We'll leave some partial, a little bit of speed brake going now, to about half.
Papa Hotel Sierra Victor Tango, request taxi. Papa Hotel Sierra Victor Tango, taxi to runway 06, holding point Victor 2.
We'll leave the speed at 240 for now. Slowing on its own, we're going to take it to manual speed now, 240. I'll keep this descent going. He hasn't given us any speed restrictions yet.
That's, Charlie, speed 200 knots.
That's the airport loading. There it is.
Speed 200 indicated, 8 Charlie.
There's the airport over there.
360, speed 220.
Speed 220, Transat 360. Okay, he does want speed 220. That's fine. We can do it.
Ryanair 190 Charlie, runway 06, cleared to land. Wind 320 degrees, 8 knots.
Roger, clear to land, 06 Ryanair 190 Charlie, thank you.
And as you can see up here, our descent is just before we intercept the localizer there, so it's going to work out just perfect, even at this lower rate of descent here. It's working out just fine. So the speed brake may have been a little bit premature, but to this airplane I do find it is a little bit slippery. It's heavy. It doesn't want to slow down easily when you start to turn final, so you need to plan ahead. Alright, obviously we're not going to be using that whole transition.
KLM 26 Golf, switch to Unicom, goodbye.
So we're going to do direct to
Unicom, bye, KLM 26 Golf.
EH614.
Avavia 21 Mike, proceed direct to Charlie Hotel.
Nope, don't do the turn though, I just wanted you to look at it. There's EH. Still heading 145, which is pretty much bang on.
360, speed 180 knots.
Speed 180, Transat 360. We can still do it clean, but we might as well start configuring. Flaps 1. Now we can't slow down and go down at the same time. Now we need the speed brakes to help us out a little bit here.
Advance 360, turn left heading 090. Speed 160 until 4 miles final. Cleared approach.
Okay, left turn 090 for the intercept. Speed 160 until 4 final. Cleared the ILS 06. Transat 360. Cleared for the approach, so there's approach mode is armed. And let's go ahead, flaps 2.
Descent at level 80, passing 90, November 12 by arrival.
Alright, so we got Loc and glide slope armed. We're almost down to 2,300 feet. We're almost down to 2,000 feet. Close the speed brakes anyways. She slowed down enough, especially with all the flaps hanging out. We are below the glide slope. That's the other key factor there, as long as you're below the glide slope.
Charlie, descend 2,000
That's the
feet.
important sign.
Q1H1022. Cleared ILS approach, runway 06. Maintain speed for the moment.
Descend to 2,000 feet on 1022, cleared ILS runway 06.
Alright, leveling off 2,000. There is Lokestar right there. Perfect. Glide slope is coming alive.
Papa Hotel Sierra Victor Tango at Victor 2, ready for departure. Papa Hotel Sierra Victor Tango, runway 06.
What a beautiful time of day to be arriving. Wow, this is working out really nicely in terms of just timing. I was not expecting. I was expecting it to be a little bit dark by now, but it's actually looking really beautiful.
Avavia 21 Mike, descend to flight level 40.
Alright, let's go ahead, gear down.
Descend to flight level 40, Transavia 21 Mike.
Ryanair 190 Charlie, vacate runway 06 on 04.
Rhino 190 Charlie, contact ground on 121.8. Bye bye.
Roger, 121.8 for ground. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Transat 360, cleared to land runway 06, wind 320 at 8.
Cleared to land 06, correction, Transat 360. Can't seem to get my call sign right ever today. I don't know why. Alright, quick check of the performance numbers.
1549er identified.
It's 138.
Direct to Papa, Alpha, Mike.
And let's go ahead, flap 3.
Information, Foxtrot.
Arm the spoilers. And that's close enough to 4 miles final as far as I'm concerned. Did I say 143? 138. She doesn't like to slow down, she's a heavy beast.
1549er, direct Papa, Alpha, Mike. Vectors ILS, runway 06, information, Foxtrot.
And a quick landing checklist while I use a little bit of speed brakes to slow down here. Alright. Landing checklist, cabin crew is advised, auto thrust is in speed mode, and landing, ECAM memo landing no blue. Landing checklist is complete. Nothing left to do but land.
Approach, good evening. 66 Charlie approaching 36 left on Victor.
She's just a little above the speed, but that's okay. She's definitely within a reasonable amount. The fun thing, guys, will be to see how many airplanes you can spot as we go by here. I see one on the taxi over there with a lot of strobes going.
And KLM 109 also Victor for runway 36 left.
KLM 109 here, hello, taxi holding point Victor 4.
See another one down there.
KLM 109.
Scandinavian 1549er, turn left heading 240.
Left heading 240 to Scandinavian 1549er.
Checked. And disengaging, actually before I do that, I'm just going to pull this up and put it right here so I can look at it in
400.
A normal practical kind of location. Disengage in autopilot.
Xavier 81 Charlie, number 2, 5.5 miles behind heavy Airbus, wind 360 at, correction 320 at 8.
Checked.
Copy. 81 Charlie.
200.
Papa Victor Tango,
Minimum.
identified at
Landing.
2.7, climb to flight level 60.
100.
Climb to flight 7,
Visual.
flight level 60, Papa Hotel Sierra Victor Tango.
40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
Nice. Get some reverse thrust going there. There's 80 knots. We're going to have to really kind of hit the brakes here to make this one, though. She's a heavy beast. She's a heavy, heavy beast. Kind of need some maximum brake in there to make that one. There we go. We made it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived. Nice. Nicely done. That worked out really well.
Amsterdam approach, good afternoon, correction, good evening, DC 61 Charlie, Quebec for Whiskey 3.
Okay, I think there's a...
KLM 66 Charlie, runway 36 left, Victor 3 cleared for takeoff, wind
There is a
320
ground
degrees,
controller
8 knots.
121.8.
36 left, clear for takeoff, KLM 66 Charlie.
Xavier 81 Charlie, clear to land, runway 06, wind 320 at
It's
8.
fairly busy, so I'm just going to go ahead and
Clear
tune
land
this in.
06, Transat 81 Charlie.
Transat 360, contact ground on 121.8, bye-bye.
Ground 218, Transat 360, thanks, Kitty.
Okay.
Amsterdam ground, Transat 360, clear of runway 06.
Transat 360, hello, taxi to stand Delta 7.
And can we request a stand at Foxtrot Concourse?
That would be possible. Taxi to Foxtrot 6.
Okay, thank you very much, Taxi Foxtrot 6, Transat 360. Alright, that was the gate I chose anyways. How hilarious is that? Alright, lights. Need to kill some of these lights here before we blind somebody. There we go. That's some horrible taxiing there. Probably cut the corner on that one way too much, but that's okay. Alright, flaps up, spoilers up. Not going to fire up the APU yet because we got a long taxi in here. And we do have the taxi light we just need it on there. There we go, that's good. And that's it. I don't believe there's a checklist for this, right? It's just a flow. After landing checklist. Yeah, ground spoilers are disarmed, flaps are retracted, engine mode selectors norm, and the APU as required. We're not going to start it yet till we get around to where we're going.
Again, ground, this is 89016. We are at stand
Sierra
92, ready for pushback and start.
We're just coming around the outer taxiway here, Bravo all the way around.
Pushback and start approved, pushback facing southwest.
And Foxtrot 6 is going to be...
Start pretty facing southwest onto
Alright, we enter Alpha 15, Alpha 16 there. Fox 6, that'll be good. Starting to get just a little bit dark here, so you know what we're going to do? We're going to throw on the the logo light for now, as we taxi around here.
Speedbird 441.
And there we go though, guys. Wow, we are here.
Squawk mode.
I'm beside myself with excitement here at the thought of finally making it to Amsterdam successfully without having had a major sim meltdown at some point here. Maybe we can do European flights in this airplane. I was getting ready to skip this European turn altogether and just go straight to my next, which was an Orlando turn, which was still going to be fun. I was going to do it in the 3.7 and have some fun with that, but I'm happy that we made it. Maybe next time I'll even take the risk and try the FS2 crew. It's a bit of a risk, I know. She is light now, that's for sure. After we took off 35 tons of fuel, almost 40 tons of fuel, it does not take much to get this airplane moving anymore. She really just takes off on her own, no thrust required, just let her idle. That setting sun, how gorgeous is that? Getting a little off center, looks a bit. Going to be the nice view right there. I think we may have our shot here for an arrival in Amsterdam. We get that iconic control tower there. Didn't mean to stop there. I'm kind of looking for this right here. I think this is going to be the view for the title card for this one. Maybe if I can even get a little lower and get a little more of the... Yeah, you lose a little bit of the detail though. Alright, back to focusing on that, but it is a nice piece of scenery here. Fly Tampa has done another absolutely fantastic job here. Long taxi in at this airport too from that runway. I thought we were going to land on 2.7 and have a super short taxi. It's okay. Because we're here, and that's what really matters at the end of the day, is we made it here. Oh, it fills me with a little bit of happiness. More than a little bit. Just to know that all that effort that I put into resetting my simulator and my computer in total has
Have a good evening.
worked out.
Ryanair 190 Charlie, bye-bye. Nice to have you here.
Alright, so we're just passing this, so the next couple of entrances here should be Alpha 14 and 15. There we go. Let's go ahead and fire up that APU before I have to focus on all these turns here. We've saved the company a fair bit again. pass there. Looks like I can see a tug waiting for me there. I can see some air stairs and everything else. It's a bit of a narrow taxiway, so we're going to really kind of oversteer a bit and then bring it back onto the center line here. That should probably do it pretty well. And even that kind of cut the corner a little bit.
On Sierra apron, requesting push and start now.
Cargo 1715, once the Martin Air 747 from right to left has passed behind you, you pushback and startup is approved.
Confirm the Martin Air from our right to left or the KLM from our left to right, because we have a sight on the KLM from our left to right, Fabulous 1715.
Alright, taxi light off. It's getting a little dark, so dome light on. See the marshaller.
Cargo 1715, there is, yeah, well, on your left indeed, it should be a Martin Air, but if it shows a KLM for you, that's the one. When he is passed, pushback and startup is approved.
So just that might be the model matching. So when the traffic from our left to right is passed, push and start is approved. Cargo looks 1715.
KLM 827, contact approach 121.2, bye-bye.
And one thing I find about this airport is the marshalling is not really all that good. It tend to bring us too far forward, especially with some of these airplanes with the bigger...
21 Mike, hello, taxi to stand Delta 49.
Bigger airplanes, you tend to end up almost too far forward, so this one seems to be doing okay.
Swivel ground, Martin Air 8916, yeah, my aircraft should be a Martin Air, I'm not sure why it's KLM, but hey-o, ready to taxi, hopefully runway 36 left.
Parking brake is on. APU, just verify that the power is on. Yep, main generator's on, then you can go ahead and kill the engines.
Taxi and also runway, hopefully Sierra 2 for Martin Air 8916.
Sorry guys, track hires. Messing with me a little bit there.
Charlie is on blocks, bedankt weer en een fijne avond.
No, don't turn off the APU.
Charlie, check.
Wrong button. Okay, caught that in the time I think. And we're going to operate the jetway. That's it. And let's do a quick parking. Oh, I killed it. That's my fault. I accidentally switched the APU off, so
Speedbird 441 taxi to holding
let's go ahead and hook up external power.
Via Quebec. At Whiskey 5, cross
wheel chocks and cones in, and then I can hook up the... There we go.
Taxi to holding point at 36
Alright, and we should also have the APU bleed on. Alright, so there you go. Sorry, parking checklist. APU bleed is on. Engine masters 1 and 2 are off. Anti-ice is all off. Never used on this flight at all. Seatbelts are off. External lights as required. Fuel pumps, that's what I forgot.
Contacting approach 121.2 for the cross, Martin 8906.
Fuel pumps are off, and the parking brake is going to just stay set, and we're going to go ahead and request deboarding from GSX. There, everything came back. But there we go, guys. We made it. I can't believe we made it, finally. And so therefore, there it is. It's done. Another flight for the logbook. Here it is. We did got 10 experience points for this. And it looks like it was a fairly lengthy flight, 7 hours and 14 minutes. And then we're going to have to do the return leg, 361, sometime probably next week. We're going to do the return leg, and then after that we got an Orlando turn, everything else. Aye, but that definitely added some experience points now for me. Here you go, 88. What am I trying to look for here? Not community reports. And let's just check here. Hours now for... We'll check the pilot career, but let's see how it works out here. So as you can see, we got quite a lot of hours now right here on this one, more so than any of our other ones. That was my longest stream and the longest flight by far. And look at that, just with one flight in the 330, that added 13% to my total hours flying in this world here. But there you go. What a beautiful airplane at sunset. I'm so glad we got this done. Guys, thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you've enjoyed this. As always, it's going to be up on the YouTube in the next couple of days anyways, so look forward to seeing that, guys. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I will catch you all again real soon. Stay safe, stay healthy out there, and we'll see you all next week for our return flight. Have a good one, guys.